All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, and thank you for joining our Fine Arts Challenge webinar on fairy tales. We have our three wonderful affiliate challenge masters, Jeannie, Chris, and Lewis here, and they are going to be answering your questions and talking to you about your challenge. If at any time you have questions about the challenge or questions about anything about DI that we can answer, just type them into the question box, and when it is appropriate, I will make sure that those get answered. So take it away, Jeannie, Lewis, and Chris.
Hello, everyone. This is Chris, and I am one of the co-affiliate challenge masters for Fairy Tales and also the regional challenge master for the Cherry Creek region.
This is Lewis Fries, and I am an affiliate challenge master, also a regional challenge master for the North Metro region.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeannie Zames, and I am an affiliate challenge master, and I am also a regional challenge master for South Metro. So welcome online. We have a number of regional challenge masters for every single region, and you'll find this presentation, we'll talk about this at the end of the presentation. We have a Facebook page, and we have this material available for you. And so there are a number of resources, and so if you ever have questions about what's going on in your own region or things with the challenge, you can always reach out to either Chris, Lewis, or myself, or to any of these regional challenge masters. All right, so what we want to do today is we want to take you through a couple of different things. And one of the first things we want to do, and we've had a lot of conversations about this among ourselves, is we want to talk about success. And what is the definition of success within Destination Imagination? And I think as team managers, that's one of the first and foremost things that you should sit down and talk to your team about. There can be so many different definitions of success. And it's really key when you start the challenge because there are so many teams that participate in DI and they all get different success measures. And you can get multiple different success measures out of that challenge. I think one of the first and foremost things is that you want to have fun. These are kids who like to be creative and they like to think and they like to brainstorm and be imaginative and all those kinds of things, and all of those things are fun. One of the things that can be a measurement of success is learning new skills. For example, this is a theatrical challenge. It's also got the opportunity to create a couple of pieces of artwork. Maybe somebody wants to learn to make pottery, and this may be a great way for them to learn a new skill. Something else I think that Destination Imagination does that not all middle school, high school, elementary school kids are great at is building teamwork. And so I think that can be a real measure of success, is how do I work with kids who think differently than I do, and how do we get to a common goal? One of the things that I think is most cool about DI is meeting new kids. We saw a presentation from several high school kids at one of our kickoff meetings, and truly one of the most touching things and one of the coolest definitions of success for DI was one of the girls who stood up and she talked to the team and she said, DI is the place where I met other kids like me. And it was like, what a cool way to describe DI. She's creative, she loves to brainstorm, she loves to think, and she found other kids who like to do the same thing. Certainly one of the measures of success is obviously everybody starts at the regional level. From there, you have the opportunity to go to the state level, and then you also have the opportunity to go to the global level. And many years ago, I had a kid who participated in DI, and we went to the state, and we also one year went to the global level. And that was really fun. It was great. However, just moving on to the next level is not the only definition of success. So I think it's important to help your kids understand, you know, it's awesome if you go to state, and I'm really proud of you if you do, but there are other ways that you can have success as well. Then one of the other cool things about DI is there's some cool awards, and we'll talk about those here in just a second. So some of the special awards that are available for Destination Imagination, one of them is the Da Vinci Award, and that's for outstanding creativity. And that can be, you know, one of the key definitions of success and key definitions of creativity is thinking outside the box. And I think a lot of times people think the only people who win the Da Vinci Award is those who win the overall challenge. And that is absolutely not the case. And creativity always engages risk. And the riskier solution you may have may also be the greater creativity solution. And so I think that's something to encourage in your team is don't be afraid to really think outside the box and let's try something different. And it may not always work, but if it's really amazing and really creative, that's something that you can have a measure of success from is winning one of those Da Vinci Awards. Another award is the Spirit of Discovery and Imagination Award. And this is one of those awards that really is just about who the core of DI is. It's for outstanding spirit, for teamwork, volunteerism, and sportsmanship. And I think that's one of the things that you want to teach your kids is that, and help them understand, is that there are a lot of different ways to work with other teams. And granted, they're competing with each other, but at the same time, they're all there for the same reason. And, you know, encourage your kids. It's like if they see a team that needs a hammer, that's a great thing to do, is to have that team spirit and that sportsmanship and say, hey, you guys want to borrow our hammer? Those kinds of things are really cool, and those are kinds of the things that can be awarded with the Spirit of Discovery and Imagination Award. And then the last award that I want to talk about is the Renaissance Award. And whereas the first award, the Da Vinci Award, is for outstanding creativity, the Renaissance Award is more for technical execution. So it's for outstanding design, for amazing engineering, execution, and performance. And the performance, this award can either be a team award or it can be an individual award. I was appraising Instant Challenge one year, quite a few years ago, and we had a high school team, and as part of their solution, one of the girls on the team was just an amazing singer, and she sang as part of their solution, and she won a Renaissance Award for her performance as part of that Instant Challenge. So that was a great way for all of those teams to have some different levels of success. One of the things that I want to talk about with reference to success is interference. Interference is one of the scarier things that people hear about, and you know, people think, oh, we're going to get deductions and things like that. One of the things that's really important to understand about interference, and I think it's a good thing to talk about, is the ideas and the solutions must come from the team managers. That they must be, you know, and so as you think about as a team manager, you can help your kids figure out, you know, where would you, and ask them a lot of questions. Ask them, well, where would you go to figure something out at school? And they're probably going to say, oh, the library, or I'd Google it. Great idea. You know, why don't we try to figure that out? So as a manager, your role is to provide guidance. Your role is also to provide safety. You know, if your kids are going to make something out of wood, you want to make sure that they're wearing goggles and that they have the right protective gear and that kind of thing. And that's absolutely okay. It's also your job to be a referee and a mentor. You can help guide them in the right direction. If you see people getting not working through things like middle school and elementary school kids especially are kind of prone to do, for those of us who've had middle school and elementary school kids, help them solve those issues and help them move forward. The big thing is you are not a provider of the solution. So you can't say, hey guys, why don't we do a fairy tale that was created in space time? That'd be wonderful. You need to let the kids come up with those solutions themselves. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about point deductions. So the point of point deductions is not to be punitive at all. The point of point deductions is to level the competition. So if, as a result of the presentation, and we learn that maybe one of the parents created the costumes, then it is the appraiser's team to say, okay, how much benefit did they get from having adults create those costumes as opposed to kids creating those costumes? And that's what the point deductions are for, is to help level that. And certainly if you find that you get point deductions, you have opportunities to have a dialogue. And when you come to pick up your scores, that is when you will talk to the team, you know, to the regional challenge master, and they'll go over your scores with you, and they'll talk to you about what's going on with those scores. And that'll be your opportunity to say, wow, okay, we don't think that that's correct. Or the team members can say, we don't think that's correct. We'd like to have a dialogue about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, from the time you get your scores, you have 30 minutes to ask for a dialogue?
That is correct, yes.
Awesome. Then, you know, and again, we want to make sure the appraiser's goal is we want to get as many points for things as we can. So we're not looking, we want the kids to succeed. It's more of a matter of just leveling the competition. One of the things that we want to encourage you is don't coach kids to cover up with the appraisers. You know, kids are honest, and let them be honest, and they will tell the truth, and they should. And it's a weird place, you know, and we've all been appraisers in situations when we've had kids who you can tell are like, Mom, am I supposed to say this? You know, and they kind of glance at their mom, and it's like, don't coach your kids to do that. Just to have your, you know, your role is there to provide guidance and to help them come up with their solution, and then let them be as honest and excited and passionate about their solution as they can. One of the things, and I can't see a show of hands since we're all on the phone, but one of the things that I think we've seen a little bit of difficulty with in terms of interference is for managers who have kids who are coming directly from Rising Stars, where parents can provide a lot more assistance, into the competitive level. So that's one of the things, if you're one of those team managers who's going from that Rising Stars level to the competitive level, this is a good place to really look at your rules of the road, or maybe call one of us who are an ACM or an RCM and talk through with us about what exactly is interference and how do I make sure that I'm helping the other parents on the team to not get involved with that. One of the documents that I'll be posting here shortly on the Facebook page, and we'll talk about that here as we move forward, is there is actually an agreement in the rules of the road on how to have parents and coaches and the team members sign an agreement about what is and what is not interference. And it's a great tool to use to have that conversation with those kids and with the other parents to make sure everybody understands this is really a solution by the kids and for the kids. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered everything.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. Well, so now I'm going to turn it over to Lewis and let him talk about the challenge, and I will just follow along and switch slides, and if I delay, just give me a beep or move forward, and I'll move the slide.
Right. So I'm, again, Louis Fries, and I'm going to encourage Chris and Jeannie to jump in if they find things that I haven't covered thoroughly. Please also post questions in your chat if you need clarifications or have questions about any piece of the challenge. This is what we're really here for this evening. So our challenge this year is called Feary Tales, and you can tell from the spelling that it's going to have something to do with something scary. So the key points of interest are fairy tale. First of all, your team is going to have to research a fairy, you know, what the parts of a fairy tale are, and tell a story that's in the form of a fairy tale. That fairy tale has to include a phobia of some kind, and we'll get into more details about all this as we go. Your team will create two pieces of artwork, one that is an expressive piece and one that is a practical or functional piece of artwork. They will create an illusion, and they will create a couple of team choice elements. So we can change to the next slide.
The room that you guys are going to have your team present their presentation in will be just any kind of a room that we can give them that is the minimum amount of area of an 8 by 10. We will give them as much room as we have, and there are no lines that they have to be concerned about or anything to that extent. We do give them one line that we want them to stand behind until we ask them to begin their presentation. But other than that, they have the total area that is provided to them. We give them an electrical outlet in case they want to do some music or something to that effect. And everything else that they use in their presentation must be provided by the team. Okay, go ahead.
So this is the fairy tale. This is the story itself. And your team will research what the elements of a fairy tale are. And some common elements are good and evil characters, make-believe situations, and moral lessons. This must be an original, team-created story, and it must include a character with a phobia. The phobia can be real, or it can be a new phobia that your team makes up. The points for the story are creativity of the story, the theatrical portrayal of the phobia of the character that has the phobia, and clear and effective storytelling, which essentially means that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now let me point out here that your teams will tell us, the appraisers, what they think they're doing to fit the elements of a fairy tale. You will write that down. Your team will write that down on the tournament data form, which is at the back of the challenge. And we will read that before your team presents, and we will base our scores on creativity of the story, how well it fits the style of a fairy tale, and so on, based on what your team tells us they are doing, not on any preconceived notions that we might have, based on our own experience of fairy tales. We will go solely and only with what your team writes on your tournament data form.
So, Lewis.
It's very important. I'm
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Lewis, there was a question about that online, and it was just when they have been researching Grimm's fairy tales and Disney fairy tales, and they are wondering what elements of the fairy tale are the DI judges looking for, a happy ending, a moral to the story, etc. So you're basically saying what elements you're using, you just tell us? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. We are not going to come in with any preconceived notion about what a fairy tale looks like. We're going to base our scores based on what you tell us. And specifically on the tournament data form, it says, briefly describe your story and how your presentation fits the style of a fairy tale. So your team is going to tell us that, and that is what we're going to use to make our scores, nothing else.
Thank you.
We can move on. So, a phobia. As we talked about, a phobia is something that people are afraid of, fear of an object, an activity, or situation, and we have a desire to avoid it if we have a phobia of something. And as I said, it can be an existing phobia, or it can be a brand new phobia that your team comes up with. The character must face the phobia over the course of the 8 minutes that they present. That does not mean that it needs to be cured. The phobia can still be there at the end of the presentation. Nor the phobia, however, must not let the character with the phobia stop him or her from achieving the goal. So they have to find a way to deal with the phobia so they can achieve their goal that they're trying to reach as part of the story. Excuse me. The next piece of the challenge is the artwork. And you see at the top of the screen a list of the different kinds of art forms that are available for your teams to use. So you have videography and animation, you have light art, you have furniture design, fashion design, body art and makeup, graphic design, architecture, toy and game design, installation art, street art, sculpture, and folk art. So there's a list of, 12 different art forms that your teams can pick from to create these two artworks they have to make. And one is expressive and one is functional. It's key here that you understand that both of these they need to be separate works of art. The appraisers need to be able to judge them as two separate pieces of art. Okay, that does not necessarily mean that they are always separate works of art. We had somebody ask us, can we take one work of art and transform it into the second work of art? And that is absolutely acceptable to do. So you can take perhaps the expressive work of art, which is a painting on the wall, and then transform that into a table in some way and turn that into the functional work of art, so long as they're at one point in the production able to be scored separately as two separate works of art. That's what you need to key on with your teams. So the expressive artwork should express thoughts and feelings, and that's one of the things that art does. It inspires or engenders people to feel things when they look at it. Perhaps happiness, perhaps fear, perhaps any other number of emotions, but it should express those thoughts and feelings, and it has to be related to the phobia. It can't just sit there and look pretty. It has to be somehow connected to the phobia. The points for the expressive artwork are for creativity and originality, and also the points are for how well the artwork conveys a thought or feeling related to the phobia. So your team is in fact scoring points for how connected that expressive artwork is to the phobia itself. The functional artwork is the second piece of artwork, and it serves a practical function. So we're talking about things like a beautiful ceramic bowl that can also hold flowers, or a wonderful chest of drawers that's been carved by an artisan, or anything like that that also functions to serve a purpose. So it should be artistic in quality, and it is used to complete a task in the Feary tale. And the points here are for originality and creativity. Again, that's particularly why the two artworks need to be set up so they can be scored separately. So they're two different because both are being scored on originality and creativity. And if we only have one artwork to look at, we're doubling the points for originality and creativity by scoring the same originality and creativity twice. So we can't do that. And then integration into the fairy tale is another place that points are scored. And finally, how well the artwork helps the character face and deal with the phobia. So again, it's directly attached to the phobia. It has to somehow help the character face and deal with whatever it is that they're scared of. Now, sometimes we're asked, how do I help my students or my team see the difference between expressive and functional artwork, where there's lots of museums in and around Denver that you can take your kids to, where they can see all different kinds of art. For example, in the Denver Art Museum, they have lots of displays of art that expresses emotion and thoughts and feelings, but they also have lots of displays of more functional artwork. They have displays of glassware and very modern, sleek teapots and other kinds of very functional artwork, and also furniture. They have displays of furniture that's also considered art. So places like the Denver Art Museum would be good places to take your team and have them look at what those different kinds of artworks are and help them see that difference. Or you can even do it online. You can pull up online art galleries and look at different kinds of art that way as well.
It's important also to understand that the team may include as many expressive or functional works of art that they want, but the two that we will score for this particular section will be the ones that they put on their tournament data form.
Yes.
So the reason why they can have more than one, if they wish, is that they can also include that as one of their team choice elements that we will discuss in a little bit. But I want you to understand that they don't have to have just one of each. They can have many of each.
Right. Next slide. The illusion.
Can I do the illusion for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The illusion, the team's going to design and create an illusion in their presentation, and this illusion is going to use technical methods during that presentation. An illusion is something that makes the impossible seem possible. That is basically the definition that we're going to use for illusion in this case. So, something that makes the impossible seem possible. Now, the technical methods, there is a definition in the challenge. If you have a copy of the challenge there, you can read along with me. It says it refers to the use of principles in the fields such as chemistry, computer science, electricity, hydraulics, mathematics, mechanical engineering, physics, or structural engineering. So basically, it's pretty much everything. But they can use, they have to use technical methods to get the illusion or to create that illusion. The illusion should also be visible from 25 feet away. This just basically is telling you that we need to be able to see the illusion. We as appraisers, and hopefully your audience. That way, if we can see it, we can appraise it in a much easier way and be able to give your team more points for what it is that we're seeing. The points that the illusion will be giving your team is for theatrical effect of the illusion. Theatrical effect basically is how well are we seeing it? What kind of an effect does it have on the appraisers themselves? Are they excited about what they're seeing? Is it something of very big interest to them? That's the theatrical effect of the illusion. They're also getting points for technical design and technical innovation. Again, technical design and the technical innovation are also explained in the problem. They do have a definition there. The technical design is the result of a plan for creating an illusion. Okay? It's the plan. A well-designed illusion shows careful planning, and it creates its effect using effective, efficient, and reliable technical methods. That's the technical design. The technical innovation is a new or unique or original or creative way to create the illusion using the technical method. So that's the difference between the technical design and the technical innovation.
Hey, Chris, I have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
So could the functional artwork be clothing sewn by the team or a magic wand made by the team?
Yes, both of those.
Yes, most certainly too. Yes.
They would both fall under the artworks. Clothes made by the team would be fashion design, and that's one of the artworks. And certainly a wand would fit under a number of those different kinds of things depending on what they did. But it could be light art if it lights up in some way, or it could be sculpture or toy game design. Any of those kinds of things would fit for a wand. So yes, those things would qualify. One other thing that we forgot to point out about the two artworks, they have to use at least one different art method from that table. So you cannot use the exact same art method for both. They have to have at least one that's different. So for example, you might have light art for the expressive, but then you couldn't use only that for the functional, because the functional has to have at least one different one. So you might go with graphic design for the functional one, so that you have one different method for each.
Yeah, the two different artworks can use a variety of the art forms. They don't have to use just one. So that's what he is saying, is that basically you can use a variety for both of them, but at least one of that of one that you use for the first artwork must be different for the second artwork.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, but I also want to make it, if you have a question about a specific solution, it is also better to make sure you get clarification as well. So our team is really great at not giving, not stepping over the line, and they're really, but if you have a question that is very specific to your team, or drawing or having a little bit of a, we have to interpret, we're going to try not to interpret the rules here. So so if Chris or Lewis or Jeannie tell you to ask for clarification, it's not that we're trying to evade your question. It's that there's people actually at a higher pay grade that that make that decision. So and the reason I'm saying that is I have a lot of challenge specific questions that are coming up. So I just want to make sure that that's all clear. So can the illusion incorporate one of the other artworks and not double dip for score?
I would say yes, that is certainly possible. One of the things we don't want one of the things we go by is if the challenge says you can't, then you can, and there is nothing in the challenge itself that says you can't use one of the artworks in some way in the illusion. And certainly the way that the artworks are scored does not double dip with the ways that the illusion is scored. So I don't see that there would be any real big issue with using the artwork in some way as part of the illusion.
I think a clarification on that one, though, too, is probably a good idea.
Clarification would be a good idea.
A perspective drawing like ones that make it appear that there is a hole in the ground fit into a technical method. It's just a drawing, but it's the mathematics of perception.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, you think about technical methods, and you can have very complex technical methods, but you can also have simple machines, which may be something, you know, like a ramp or a lever or something like that. And engineering and technical drawings, I think, are absolutely technical methods.
Right.
All right. Will I be able to? Oh, okay. So there's a question about the webinar. The webinar will be posted on our YouTube, on the Destination Imagination Colorado YouTube channel, most likely tomorrow.
And then I'll also include a link from the website or from the Facebook page and from Twitter too.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so and when could an oven be considered functional design under functional artwork?
An oven? Sure. I mean, there are certainly some very beautifully designed, very artistic ovens out there. So yeah, absolutely.
And then
Yeah, if
can
you think about the old style stoves, and they cooked within those stoves, not just at the top of the stove, but the old ones, I mean, they were extremely arty.
Yeah.
all right, this is the last question for right now. Could the team's expressive artwork be their set or scenery?
It could. It depends on what they do with it and how they describe it and what technical methods they're using for it.
It could definitely be. It could definitely be their expressive artwork. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. It's just that they need to, on their tournament data form, tell us why it is that kind of an artwork.
Yeah.
And if they give us that reason and it makes sense, then most certainly it can be.
Right. Because like we said, we're going to go by what's on the tournament data form, and that's how we're going to score. So you need to tell us on the tournament data form exactly why the expressive artwork is that, and what artistic methods you use to create it, and then why your functional artwork is that, and what artistic methods you use to build that, and that's what we'll go by.
Correct. Exactly.
And certainly it lists architecture and design and things like that as forms of art. So, you know, obviously architecture is going to weigh into any kind of set design or, you know, that kind of thing.
All right, there aren't any more questions right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Team choice elements. Oh, did you want to go with that, Louis?
No, you go ahead, Chris.
Okay. A team choice element is something that, or basically they're going to have two of them, okay? And basically what this is what the team chooses out of their presentation that makes their presentation theirs, makes it special to them, okay? What was special in their particular presentation that made it unique just to them? They may use anything to create this. Basically, we're talking about like music or costumes or a specific costume or anything that basically is special to them and shows off their interests or their skills or their areas of strength and talent. That's what the team choice element is meaning to them. It cannot be a specific required item that's being scored elsewhere, though. So, for instance, they wouldn't want to use one of their artwork as a team choice element. They would want to do a different artwork and use that. Now, a team choice element can have can be something or have a part of something that's being scored elsewhere. So in other words, they could basically say, okay, well, I have this particular backdrop that is perhaps one of my artwork, but we can also take a portion of that, and we perhaps they have a clock or something like that on the back of their art, their backdrop that they're not using for the specific artwork. And we can pull that clock out, and we can use that if they choose that as a team choice element and score it. These basically are things that have a meaningful connection to the solution that they're putting out there. The points that they're going to get are for the creativity and the originality of what they choose as a team choice element. They're going to also get points for the quality, the workmanship, and the effort for the team choice elements that they're choosing. Now, effort can mean a lot of different things. And especially when you're looking at small children versus high school. Effort to us is how much work did the team put into that particular element. Sometimes it can be a lot of work, but yet not really be a lot of a beautiful thing. So in other words, they can put a lot of different stars on a backdrop. Did all those little stars make the backdrop look beautiful? Or, and maybe it wasn't beautiful. Maybe it was just that it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to do that, okay? So that's how we are looking at the word effort. Now, the team choice elements do have to be integrated into the presentation, and we're going to give points as to how well it is integrated into the presentation. So we don't want team choice elements being chosen for something that has absolutely nothing to do with their solution. So we will give them much better points as to how well the integration is. Anything that I missed on that, guys?
No, I don't think so. I just the point with the integration is that what we want to see in the 8 minutes is one cohesive presentation where everything is connected together, rather than having these little things happening off to the side that don't have anything to do with the story.
Right. And sometimes for team managers, you kind of say, well, what are they going to choose? I mean, how are they going to make that decision? Well, a lot of experienced team managers will look at as the team goes on and has created their solution and such, and they'll talk to their team members and say, hey, what is in what you guys have created that isn't being scored anywhere else and that really is special to you? What is that? And the kids can come up with those team choice elements just by that question.
Right.
It's usually not something that after you're done with your solution that you kind of try to push in, because that makes it disjointed. And like Lewis said, we want it to be a very cohesive solution. So those team choice elements are most likely already there.
So there's a question about the explanation, I believe, for the team choice elements. So the team manager wants to know, how could the team use the functional art? So she's confused. So I didn't. How can the team use the functional art of costumes as the team choice element? So I guess the question is is that sort of double dipping?
Well, in that particular case, it depends. If they've chosen the artwork as a costume, and if it's costumes in general, is there one costume that they do not wish to be part of the artwork? If there is one, they could use that extra costume for a team choice element. I would tend to not go that direction, basically because the double dipping is a difficult thing to distinguish with appraisers, and they may ask for the team to choose something different or something else because they're afraid that they won't get their max points that way. So there is a possibility of using a team choice element as a specific part of something that you are being scored elsewhere, but sometimes it's a very dangerous situation to do.
I think too, like if you're thinking about costumes, really being clear in your documentation and your team forms. So for example, if your functional artwork was fashion design and it was the clothing and that was your functional artwork, then perhaps the makeup might be something that's amazing, and that could be your team choice element, where truly the design of the clothing and the creation of the clothing is the functional artwork, but then the makeup, or maybe creating a wig that, so it's very distinguished from the two. But I agree with Chris. It's always, I think, better to err on the side of really making sure that they're clearly distinctive items.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
We just have to let you know that there is that possibility because it is part of that rule.
All right, there aren't any more
Any other
questions.
questions?
No, there aren't any more at this time, but
Okay.
feel free to ask them. Just put them in your question box.
Okay. Well, the next section we have is about scoring. And I don't know if one of you guys want to talk about this. It's pretty short, or I can go through these. Basically, what I wanted to do was just show you some, what the scoring sheets look like, especially for some of our newer team managers. And one of the things that's really helpful as a team manager, and this is a great way for you guys to provide guidance, is to use those scoring forms as you help plan your solution. And I think a lot of experienced team managers have talked about how helpful that is. It also helps your team to be strategic about their scoring elements. So for example, if you look at these pie charts, you can see that out of the central challenge scoring, 40% comes from the fairy tale, 27% from the illusion, and 33% from the artwork. So it's fairly even, but you do get a little bit more points from the fairy tale. So you want to make sure that your team is putting the right amount of effort into that. One of the other things to make sure kids understand is that when you put all of the scoring together for their overall score, 60% of the points come from their central challenge, 25% come from the instant challenge, and 15% come from those team choice elements. And what happens is you're given your raw score, and you'll get those raw scores when you come back to get your scores. I always encourage people, this is not like the SAT. There is not a perfect score. Everything is relative to where everybody else is. And scores are scaled, so whoever gets the top score, they're scaled to the top level, and then everyone else is scaled accordingly. But it's very, I don't think it's a good idea when your kids come and it's like, okay, we got a score of 132. Okay, what that shows is talk to kids about how did you do? What did you think we did well here? How did you think this went? Not, oh, this wasn't perfect, or oh, this is at the bottom. Because you really don't know until you see those scaled scores.
And it's very important. It's very important for the team manager to suggest to their team that they come and pick up the scores. Don't not pick up scores, because the head judge or the challenge master or the head appraiser and the challenge master can actually explain to you what those scores mean to your team and give them some indication as to, if they're going on to the next level, how they can help themselves between those two levels, or even, because everything is skill-based, as to if they don't go on to the next level and they want to be a team for the next year, then they can work on that particular skill that they are not doing so well in. It is very, very important to pick up those scores and to actually ask about them.
Right. The other big reason why your team should come pick up their scores is because this is also our chance to celebrate with them, and we give them back sticky notes from the whole entire appraisal team, which the appraisal team, these are love notes from the appraisal team saying, this is what we really loved about what you did. This was really great. And this gives us a chance to really make, to as I said, celebrate with the teams and give them a lot of warm fuzzies about what they accomplished.
One of the things I like to do when I give back scores is sort of ask the team too, like, well, what were you shooting for? And a lot of people will say, well, gosh, we were just glad that we got along. And so then it gives the appraisers something to also make sure that they're celebrating. So
Exactly.
And the other thing about I'm sorry.
It's very important that they actually come and talk to that team, or to that head appraiser or the challenge master, because they need those sticky notes. The kids, a lot of the teams don't come to the tournament to win the tournament. They are in the tournament because they want to be a team. They want to enjoy the camaraderie and the celebration of what they're doing, and the score isn't all that important, but those sticky notes are.
Oh yeah, teams will tell us that the most valuable thing is the sticky notes, that they get more out of that than anything else.
And I can attest to that. We had the DI Extreme, what was that, Kate, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And one of the teams that was there, who was a very strong team, I've seen them perform and many, many times, and they've actually been to globals a couple of times. And one of the girls on the team, she came over and she told me, she said, we love the sticky notes. We love getting them even more than we get our scores. And these are high school kids who've been doing this for years and years and years and clearly have had lots of success. And they really love seeing the personal comments from the appraisers and getting that, more detailed, more review. So it's really important to bring those kids and let them finish up their day or, finish the competition, that kind of thing, by getting their scores from the appraiser.
The other thing I wanted to say about scores is that they, besides being relative, they also they are not like percentage scores like an A is 90, a B is 80, a C is 70. If we consider 50% a good score, anything above 50% is a very good score, and anything below 50% is sort of things to work on. So if you see that you're scoring all in about the 50% range, that doesn't mean that you failed in any way, shape, or form. It means you did exactly what we were expecting someone of your team's age and ability to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I've told, I've appraised instant challenge for a long time, and one of the things too, because the scores are relative, if it was a hard challenge for your team, it was probably a hard challenge for other teams too. So you really can't just make a judgment based on that one, just looking at your raw scores. So I think it's important to help your kids understand that.
So the question on the deck right now is, please define 33% artwork. Is the artwork the functional and expressive artwork and not the team choice artwork?
Yes, the artwork is defined by the 33% is the two pieces of artwork, the functional and the expressive artwork, and the points associated with that and that alone.
Let me show you. Actually, this is the actual scoring form. So you can see right there that out of the central challenge, there are really 3 components that make up that score. It's the fairy tale, and you can see how many points, up to 95 points, come from that. Up to 80 points come from the 2 pieces of artwork, and then up to 65 points for the illusion. So that breaks that down in a little bit more detail, and that comes straight out of the challenge. So, have your team take a look at that and have them ask questions and have them really be strategic about that as they start to map out their solution. And I think it really helps guide their solution so that they, that's a good guidance tool for you as a team manager to help them make sure that they get everything covered and make sure that they don't leave any elements out and that kind of thing.
The other
see that every while.
The other thing is that their team choice element doesn't have to be artwork. Their team choice element can be technical. It could be it could be their script may be full of puns. It may be so there's the expressional artwork, the functional artwork, and the team choice element, and that can be artwork, but it doesn't have to be artwork.
Right. Exactly. We've seen team choice elements ranging from the rhyming in the script to a very specific costume to a piece of the backdrop to just about anything and everything that teams can think of, to a soundtrack, to any number of things.
It could be
choice is really open for the teams to decide what they want to bring.
Yeah, really team choice gives them the option that they can take a look at their challenge and say, wow, we're really good at this. This is something else that we would like to be scored for. And, for those of us who've been involved in Destination Imagination, we've seen really anything and everything qualify as team choice.
And one of the things that team managers will find, and especially new team managers, you're going to see that it could be that your team chooses something that you wouldn't necessarily choose. It's the team's choice, and so you cannot choose it for them. You know that something else is going to get better score because you're watching it, you're seeing it, but it has to be the team's choice, and sometimes they just want what they want. And that is what should be coming through on a team choice element. I'm not saying that, that you can't, explain to them what they're going to get for scores and such, Is this creative? Is it original? You can ask those questions, but you cannot choose it for them. They must choose it themselves.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, we'll finish up the presentation. One of the things that we just wanted to point out to you guys, and really appreciate your participation in the webinar, and we want your teams to be successful, and we want you to help you get to your definitions of success. And so there are a lot of different resources that you have available to you. So one of the things that we have set up is a Facebook page, and I will be posting this information to the Facebook page. We're also going to be posting some discussion questions. When we did this training live, we had some real good discussion questions, and these are things that you can take to your teams and help them discuss and solve those things. We've also got a Twitter feed. You can go to any of your ACMs and your RCMs. Well, there are also two wonderful websites. There's destinationimagination.org, which is the national website, and then extremecreativity.org, which is the Colorado site. And there are lots and lots of good resources there as well. And in addition to information on the primary challenge, I will also be posting some instant challenges that your teams can practice when they're having their practices as well. There's also an Instant Challenge Facebook page, and my husband's been involved in Instant Challenge for a long time, so I have a insider track to a CD of practice insights in instant challenges. So be sure to reach out to any of us.
The other thing, our website actually has changed, Jeannie. It's www.dicolorado.org, but we did have a name change this year. Just
okay. Well, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. And then the other thing is on our website. If you go to that website, and in the top right-hand corner, there's also a team manager resources page that has a lot of information on it as well.
Yeah. And one of the things that team managers need to remember is that one of the biggest resources that they have is their general rules. And they need to make sure that their team is familiar with the general rules. A lot of teams will come through and say, well, we didn't know anything about those. They are a preliminary for the challenge that they are taking. They need to know those general rules, they need to know the challenge, and they need to know the clarifications that come from this challenge. So those are the three things that are very, very important for you as a team manager to familiarize your team with.
Yeah.
The general rules are on the site, on the website, so that you can get to them.
So for as a good example, we've had a number of people asking about using dry ice with the, and there definitely are, some guidelines and things in the rules of the road about dry ice. One of the things to keep in mind as well is we also follow the guidelines of the school where the competition will be taking place. So if, you want to do some of those kind of things, ask for input, and be sure to check those rules of the road to make sure, because we'd hate to have your team come and find out that, oh, we can't do that because the school doesn't allow that, or we can't do that because that's not included in the rules of the road. So do we have any more questions, or?
Do we have any more questions? If you do have a question on anything, you can put them in the question box.
Is anybody lost? We always ask this.
Right.
I think this is a really fun challenge, and I think the three of you did an excellent job.
I would like to.
Very fun for the children. I think they're going to just love this.
We did talk very briefly about getting a team clarification, but if you want more details on that, you should go to the www.destinationimagination.org website, and there is a link there that will allow your team to file a team clarification that comes back only to your team with a response. Nobody else gets to see it but you and our international challenge masters who are responding back to you. And that's where you would go to do that.
All right. Is there any question? So the Instant Challenge Facebook page, I don't know where it is. I friended it today. So let me look. I would just go, let's see, Colorado. It says it's Colorado Destination Imagination Instant Challenge, all spelled out. Colorado Destination Imagination Instant Challenge. That's where it is.
I'll include a link to that on our Facebook page too.
We're all trying to get so technical here. We're all
Yeah,
very with it as Facebook fades out. We're gonna embrace it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we're all very cool.
Are there any other questions? Oh, wait. Does expressive artwork have to be tangible? Or, for example, if they use light art and it's created during the performance, would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
It does have to be, presented to us. But if they create it as they're presenting, I see no problems with that.
And then Rashmi has let us know that it's www.facebook.com/DI-ColoradoIC. Thank you.
Oh, for the IC. Yeah. It's really important for the team managers to understand that they need to bring their paperwork to a competition. We've went over the tournament data form and told you how important that is, especially for us giving scores to your team. It is extremely important that that piece of paper be there. If the paper does not show up, it is going to force one of our appraisers to try to get the team to give us some information. And what that does is slow our tournament down. So if you can please have your team fill out the information, it is required information. It would be the best for your team, because trying to get the answers out of the team at the last minute when they're all flustered and they're just so excited and everything, is very difficult, and they tend to put the wrong things on it. And that is very detrimental to their scoring. There are other required paperwork, and it is listed on that tournament data form, so please pay attention to that and bring all of your paperwork with you. It is really important also that you bring, or maybe make, several packets of this, so that maybe one person is bringing it and another family is bringing it, simply because if somebody loses it, or if that person gets stuck in traffic and can't get there or something, that the paperwork does show up so the team is successful.
Can more than one character have a phobia?
Absolutely. Again, the challenge doesn't say that they can't, so they can. But the only one that will be scored will be the one that the team puts on the tournament data form again. But they could use the other one as a team choice element if they wanted to.
Correct.
All right. Are there any more questions? All right. Well, you guys have the information on how to get a hold of Lewis and Jeannie and Chris. And so if you have questions, please email. Oh, what? We got another question. Latecomer. Can there be more than one phobia for one specific character?
Again, I think the answer to that is yes. The challenge doesn't say there can't be more than one.
Okay. Can they have the same phobia, or is just one character scored?
The character that is scored is the one that is on that is listed on the tournament data form. So more than one character can have that phobia, but the appraisers will only score the character that appears on the tournament data form.
Okay.
Because it does say it's only the character that has the phobia, so one has to be specifically stated.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get 3 times the points if you have 3 characters with phobia.
Right.
Although, good try for asking.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, and thanks to Jeannie, Chris, and Lewis. They have done an excellent job this year and every year, and they are. I'm just thrilled to be working with them. They're all awesome. So make sure you ask any of the 4 of us any question at any time. And if you just if you email me at kate@dicolorado.org, I will get you to the right person as well if you're struggling to find information. So thank you all very, very much.
Well, thank you, Kate,
Good night,
for
everybody.
helping us out here
Yes, thank
and
you.
getting this all set up for us.
Yeah, thanks, Kate.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Night, Lewis. Night, Jeannie.
Good night,
Night.
Chris. Lewis.
See you in the new year.